Dane, do you want to do the
Hello,
introduction?
everybody. Welcome back.
You have to restart
that's what I
it,
just
Clement.
started doing, yeah. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Keeping It Blunt podcast. We're here today with my little brother Kieran. We got our first guest on the show. Thank you for all the support on the first one. It was quite mind-blowing, actually. That so many of you came to watch Graham and I waffle about which animals would win in a fight. But anyway, it can only get better from there. So this is my little brother Kieran. He's done some pretty interesting things in the last couple of years and before that as well. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Graham, do you have anything to say?
Not much. I'm recovered from the thing that is going around the world at the moment.
That's it.
I'm fine. Everyone's all good. So
yeah,
no one else I know tested positive. So
Kieran and I tested negative. Everyone that had seen Graham
didn't.
tested negative, so he
I
clearly
broke the
wasn't
chain.
very good.
Yeah.
The virus clearly didn't do its job.
Yeah, I broke the chain. I beat coronavirus and I stopped it. So yeah, so I think we have to do a running theme we will be having with all our guests is a question we're going to ask you at the beginning of every episode. And that is, Kieran, if you had to choose any 3 songs right now that go onto your playlist, no questions asked, what are those 3 songs?
Okay, well, at the moment, guys, Foo Fighters is like really doing it for me. So I'm going to say Everlong as the first one because it's a banger.
I'll allow it.
Yeah. You're going to go Far Kid because it's the ultimate hard pop song. And it just gets me through the things.
True. I've taught them well,
yeah, I was going to say, you've definitely done some things, yeah.
And then, you know what, I'm going to go on a little bit of a different road here. And I'm going to say Drugs by Falling in Love. Is it, Dane?
I taught you well. I taught you very well. I haven't heard that song in a while, actually.
I know it's our first guest.
It's a banger.
I know it's our first guest, but probably the best 3 we're going to get in a while.
No, good luck everyone that comes after
after
keep
Kieran,
up with that. At least I'll taste.
I can just tell Nick he's deliberately going to do it wrong. Future guest.
It's going to be like Taylor Swift, Justin Bieber.
Yeah.
Actually, but Justin Bieber is Justin Bieber's class.
And now that we're back from the break, you can see that the set has completely changed behind us.
I love how you say that while Graham's still busy changing the set.
Better.
Okay, yeah. So thank you for closing your curtains. One other quick thing. We are recording this at 9:30. Well, it was going to be 9:30. It's now 10 o'clock in the morning. So we're not going to be drinking during this one because we are not alcoholics, believe it or not. I actually haven't touched an alcoholic beverage in 2021. That is also a good point. Very good point.
I have had stuff to drink, but yeah.
I haven't. It's probably my cleanest start to a year ever in my whole life, because even as a kid I would have had some alcohol. Anyway, so moving on from Kieran's 3 songs on a playlist, I actually need to pull up the question so I can keep up. Sorry, I'm a bit
disorganized. I love it how prepared we are for this podcast.
I've got the question.
Like we said, it can only get better from here. Okay, well then get started, Graham. If you got the questions, you wrote the questions.
No, I've got them out. Well, they're not questions.
I know everything about them.
But that's what I was about to say. Kieran is obviously Dane's younger brother, and even though I've known Kieran for the same amount of time I've known Dane, he's always just been Dane's annoying younger brother, who's kind of always just there.
Yeah, that's accurate.
So we've spoken about this before. Kieran fully agrees with that assessment, and I mean, even if he didn't, it's still true. So basically, Kieran, Dane was obviously born here, then you guys moved over. Kieran, you were born in the UK.
Yeah, I was born in Hemel Hempstead in 2000.
Yes.
What a laugh you do.
Yeah, we're getting old, dude.
No, you know what's more scary is when someone's like 2000 and 2000 and what? Excuse me.
Yeah. If there's an and, then you just leave. But the scary thing is 2000 and like 2000. I think it's 2003 kids are matric now.
Oh my god, yeah, bro, that's actually
Well, yeah,
true.
because Kelby's in grade 11. Yeah.
Yeah. So
At the end of this year, we've been out of school for as long as we were in school.
yeah, I know it's insane.
I don't
That's
like
harsh.
it.
Back to
But anyway.
Kieran. You were obviously quite young when you moved back, so I think asking what it was like living there might be a bit futile. Because when you moved back, what, 2003? Was it?
No, like
No,
2007.
2007.
Yeah, so I was
That was
6
when
or
I
7
moved to
when we moved
Maritzburg.
back.
Sorry. Okay, so you will have some recollection of what it was like growing up there, though.
Yeah, like
Or is
very.
it kind of like?
It's all over the place. Like you can remember snippets of like going.
Yeah,
to
like you just remember sort of scenes that happened.
Yeah. I don't.
Fair
You know,
enough.
at that age, you're not really remembering anything substantial. There's nothing
Yeah.
substantial happening in your life.
True.
And when you moved back, well, I say moved back. I mean, when you moved here for the first time, did you realize that you were like actually going as far as you were going? Was it kind of like, oh, we're just going to South Africa? Or was it like, did you understand how deep, like not deep, how far you actually going from what you knew as home?
Yeah, I mean, at that age, you don't really realize, but I do remember, like it was yesterday, when we were driving away from the house that we lived in, and our friends were standing on the road after they'd all just say goodbye.
Yeah.
I can remember, like at that moment, it was like, "You're okay, cool, this is happening."
Like
Yeah,
we're clearly going somewhere. Like don't know where.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, at that age, there's no ways you can see the full picture and realize what's actually going on. But yeah, nevertheless,
also
that was
I
quite a
think-
hectic moment.
Like we'd been coming out every year anyway to see family.
Oh, okay.
So-
Yeah, exactly.
Like especially for Kelby, he probably had no idea what was going on. Like he was probably like, "Oh, we're going on holiday again." Like for me, it hit home a little bit bigger, obviously, because I was like, "I'm never going to see my friends again." Like at that point,
Yeah.
like you're in grade 3, you're kind of making friends, like not for life necessarily, but like
A shot.
leaving your friends at
Yeah.
But like like it's quite a big deal when you like spend 3 years in school with a bunch of people and you just get taken away.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
Yeah.
wouldn't change it for the world.
Just take it away.
Yeah,
So, Kieran, what Dane, you could probably back him up on this. I want to ask, what do you think you were like as a kid?
Well, you've already said it, Graham. Apparently, I was annoying.
Yeah, but I would say that because I only saw you as the annoying younger brother. I wasn't here all the time. Like, I wasn't with you.
no,
all the
Kieran
time.
was difficult here.
Yeah, no, I definitely wasn't an easy child. Like, I know that for a
No.
fact, but it's one of those things. Can't change the past now, can I?
Mm-mm. I mean, everything happens for a reason, especially those knives you pulled on me in the kitchen and all of that stuff.
Oh,
you know?
come on. Well, Drew, at least I never
we've
stabbed
got
you.
it-
Can't be
we've got
stabbed.
it back.
Yeah, you know, I
We've got
had
to
that
backtrack on that.
intimidation
Hold
factor
on.
because I was still bigger than you. Oh, bro, Kieran
We've
used
got
to routinely pull knives on me when mom and dad weren't home. Whenever he got annoyed with something that I had to say, or whenever he
that
was
was
doing
quite
something
freaky,
stupid and I pulled him up on it. But I knew you'd never do anything because at that stage I was still bigger and heavier than him, so I had that sort of dominance.
And I'm a decent human. Like, I wouldn't stab someone. Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Then I
You
wasn't
did
so
pull the
sure,
knife,
but now I'm
though.
pretty sure.
You did pull the knife.
In a playful way, Graham.
It was just an
Sorry?
intimidation factor, you know.
Yeah.
He had to make himself feel
He was
big,
bigger.
and now he is big.
Yeah, exactly.
I still remember. I don't know how many years ago this was. I still remember Kieran you used to do all that shit with wood. Like you used to be heavy into your woodworking.
Oh yeah,
That lasted like a year.
I think we still got some of the things he made around the house.
Yeah, it was a bit longer than a year, Graham. It was in junior school.
Yeah, it was a
like,
while.
grade 7. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good hobby, but like all things in life, you know, eventually you get over it and do something new. And
Except
for
this
me, the new
podcast,
thing
we're
was
gonna be doing this
bicycles.
forever.
Yeah, I was
Well,
literally
yeah.
just about to ask
A
about
little
the
segue onto
downhill.
bicycles there.
I was going to ask about
Thanks for
the
the segue,
bicycles
Kieran.
and how you got into that. Like, what sparked the interest in that?
Yeah, bro, it was weird. So obviously, just got to college, grade 8. Knew no one, like a handful of people from Cornwallis. So making friends in the dump classes, which is where I was, and you know, making the most of it. And I met this guy, and he was like, we got along, became friends, and he was like, yeah, we should go ride at Cascades. I'm like, why at Cascades? And he's like, no, there's like a downhill park there. It's where they do all the races. And I knew that there were races there because you had watched them before. Living 500 meters away helps with that. So yeah, I went and we got a lift up halfway up the downhill track.
Was those first bikes that we got?
Bro, I was riding on Dad's bike, and the black one.
Okay.
We nicknamed it Black Death, bro, because it was literally falling apart every time I rode it. So anyway, we get dropped up halfway up, and we're going as fast as we can. Like I would have thought we were sending it, but in actual fact, we were probably crawling. And I remember falling on every obstacle, every jump, but getting to the bottom, I was like, that was the coolest thing I've ever done in my life. I have to do it again. And that's when the bug bit, and it's been 7 years, and I still feel that way. So good stuff.
And you've like actually, you didn't just do downhill though, like you did other forms of cycling at the same time.
Not by choice.
Yeah,
Not by choice, but I mean, I know it wasn't by choice, but you did.
Yeah, so obviously when I started, it was all the gravity stuff. Like that was fun. Then in 2016, I kind of made a small mistake.
Just a little
broke my leg. It was so small, but
can we run the clip?
I mean, if only the scar was only that small.
Dane,
we can try and find the clip and run the clip.
Yeah, because
we can
try. I'll send you the clip. Yeah.
Yeah,
please,
okay,
that
we'll
is
run
honestly
the clip, yeah.
one of the funniest things I've ever experienced in my life was watching that clip. So we'll run the clip. And let's just talk about that for a bit. Talk us through it. What happened?
Yeah, Bruce. So getting more confidence. I was on a slightly better bike. I've been riding for 2 years, and all my friends are on big downhill bikes, and they're all hitting these big jumps. And I knew that like the talent was there. I knew I could do it, but in reality, I look back now, I did not have the tools for the job, and that's exactly what led to hurting myself. So I sent this road gap at the top of Cascades, and it's got like this rough, rutted landing, and the bike I was on just could not handle it. So when I got to the bottom of the little hill and the landing, there's a corner, and I just could not get around the corner, and I ended up wrapping my leg around a tree. And
lovely.
Yeah, as I hit the ground, as you've seen in the video, as I hit the ground, I just knew straight away that I had snapped this leg right in half.
And he had.
I think maybe
very much so.
I think now might be the best.
Yeah, now we run the clip.
Now.
I'm not hitting it, huh? Okay, fine, I will. Broken leg. Mitchell! Broken my leg. I've broken my fucking leg!
It's hilarious.
Oh my word, it's
brilliant. You talk about how you started this because of someone you met at school. What did you like? What was your school life like? Did you enjoy it? Was it one of those? I just want to get this over with. I'm here.
Okay, wait. Before we get into the school stuff, I want to talk about the cycling a little bit more. Let's stick to cycling because you ended up riding for KZN. You went on tour with the KZN team. Tell us a little bit more about like what your shift from downhill into cross country stuff, and obviously the leg break was part of it, but like a little bit more behind the scenes.
The leg break was like the thing behind it. I just thought to myself, okay,
that was grade 10, eh?
Yeah, it was the end of grade 10.
Yeah. We were in matric. We just finished school. Yeah. Were we at Rage when you did that?
I don't know, dude. You know when it was? I broke my leg. I think it was the 2nd of December. Mom was at prize giving at Cornwallis.
We were at Rage. Oh no, that was the day we got back from Rage because I went to that.
Yeah, we would have got back.
Yeah, I remember. I was sleeping. I was literally having a nap after that prize giving, and I woke up and you were just in hospital.
Yeah,
there's no one at home. I remember now.
I'll never forget, like, because I told everyone, no, I've broken my leg, and they were like, oh, come on, stop being a girl. You'll be riding in a week. It's just a bruise. And I'm like, no, bro, I'm telling you, this thing's broken. And no one believed me. And then when the nurse eventually told me that, no, like, she looked so bleak. I'll never forget it, that you've broke your leg. I was just like, yeah, I told you so. Like, come on, I knew
why
this.
did we have to waste time with the x-rays?
Yeah.
And then they put a plate in, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I could show you the plate, but I did lose it. They put a titanium plate about that long with some screws as well and put it all back together. And then had another operation in 2019 to take it all out and fix the leftover parts.
Because your leg was like clicking and stuff when you walked. It was weird, I remember. Like you put your hand on your knee and it would like grind. It was so gross. So gross. Graham's not happy. Graham hates this stuff.
No, I'm not a fan, hey. I mean, I've tried whenever I've broken a bone, I've tried my hardest to convince myself it wasn't broken. Like,
I know, we know, Graham.
That was
you broke it at the beginning of a draw and only got tested on the Monday.
Yeah, that was my. I was like, no, it's not broken. It's fine. No stress. Because I just didn't like. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, wait. So back to cycling. So you broke your leg. How long was it then until you got back on a bike and carried on?
It took me 9 weeks before I was able to ride a bike for the first time.
Except for the messing around in the driveway you did a long time before that.
Yeah, but that was just riding in circles with the brace and everything still on.
Yeah.
Yeah. But even when I was riding after 9 weeks, I had to be very careful because it was still like fresh and I couldn't really do anything extreme. So that's when the transition to cross country kind of happened, because all I could really do was ride up the hill and then go down the chilled single track. And then I, was like, okay, cool. How do I do it faster? So I started doing research on like training and all that kind of stuff. And before I knew it, I was like at the start line with my knee all strapped up, racing my first race in 2018. And yeah, that was that.
So that's like the whole of grade 11 you didn't race at all?
No, grade 11 I did race. So I started probably April was the first one, and then I raced the.
Okay, so that's 2017.
That's 2017, yeah.
Okay, wait, but that doesn't add up. April. Oh wait, 9 weeks, not 9 months. Sorry. That does add up. That adds up.
The maths checks out.
So was that first race? Was it one of those Spur schools races, or was it just?
No, it was a provincial cross country race.
Okay.
Yeah, which I got destroyed at. Like, it was so bad.
But it was the start.
It was also just broken your leg like 9 weeks before that. So.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
it's kind of understandable.
So you started that then, and then at what point? Because I remember before you went to England, you were like, your sleep schedule, eating schedule, training, like that was you just like eat, sleep, ride, repeat. Like it was, you were literally on such a schedule, and obviously things have changed a bit now. But like, how did it go from that first race to that well-oiled machine that you were before you went to England?
I mean, I just wanted to win. I mean, once you get the feeling on the start line and coming across, once you start getting better, all I wanted to do was be like at the front of the races, and that's all I wanted to do. So it became my priority, even over school, because who wouldn't want something exciting and fun over school? Let's be honest.
Fair enough. Stay in school, kids.
Yes, yeah, please stay in school. Not all of us have British passports that we can just hop over when we need to.
Yeah, so it kind of just progressed. Probably wasn't even, aware of how serious it became after a while. But towards the beginning of the trick, it was, all I was focusing on.
Yeah.
Did it help that the school started recognizing it as a sport? Like, did that make it a bit more inconvenient?
It wasn't inconvenient. It helped because obviously at college you have to do a sport at all times. And when they made it an official sport, we were then able to do it every afternoon and get away with it through the school. And in the report card, we were doing a sport for the school. So it worked for me. Like, it was fun.
Yeah, because you obviously you were very late. into the sport. Like most cyclists, like before they can walk, they're riding a bike, and they're racing by the time they're 6 or 7. You raced first time at 16, 17. So how did that like affect? I mean, I remember you just being like coming back from races, being like, "Yeah, these guys have been riding their whole life, and I kicked their ass with a broken leg." Like, how did it? Like,
I actually remember that as well.
It was brilliant. Like, how did it get to that point, and like, how were you received by the cycling people? Like, I don't really know too much about this. I was not really involved. I was out of school doing my own thing.
Yeah.
When you were doing this.
Well, it was weird because obviously, because everyone in the cycling community, their parents had been doing it, and then they were doing it from kids, and that's how they got into it. Everyone already knew each other, and they were all friends with each other. So coming in at such a late stage, there was a few of us.
The awkward stage of like 16, 17. Like, it's pretty awkward.
Yeah, exactly.
It
was the awkward stage of going to a race and like knowing who people were, but not really being friendly with them at all because you don't know them. They don't go to your school. Like, they don't even live anywhere near you. So like the first maybe year and a half was a bit like that. But in matric, like, it obviously all changed. The school series helps as well because there's 4 races a year, and then the finals, the national final, that you represent the province. Like, you're all together, you go up in a bus, you become friends with the people over the time that you're racing. Like, it's a whole day event as well. The school
you
series
only made KZN team in matric, hey? Or did you make a grade 11 and matric?
I made it in grade 11 and matric.
Okay, so by the end of grade 11, you kind of started making friends in the community.
Yeah.
And then matric was just chilled, like seeing your friends every few weeks at a race kind of thing.
Yeah, Brew, and to be honest, like towards the end of matric, like, not that I had really given up or anything, but I remember the last national final, it was on my 18th birthday. And I just remember, like, can't really be asked with doing a race on my birthday right now. There's other things I would kind of also want to be doing right now. And
pause that.
Take responsibly, kids.
Or don't.
No, do. Don't listen to him because otherwise you'll put on 10 kgs during lockdown.
Yeah,
okay, well, that was a very hurtful thing to say.
Okay, have we covered everything cycling-wise, Kieran? Is there anything more, any other interesting stories you want to throw in there?
No, the only thing I'll say is like real life kicks in eventually. So
yeah, because I remember, because obviously after school you didn't really know what you wanted to do, so you went and worked at Callan's shop for the first 6 months, and it was awesome at the beginning. It was like a dream come true. You work in a bike shop, fix bikes all day, ride in the afternoon, like gym in the morning. It was literally perfect. And 6 months later, you're bored out of your mind, like you're going insane.
Yeah,
and then,
well, that's when the change happens. So when I had the second operation on my leg, that's when we kind of started the conversation of moving to England, and that was in April 2019, and I ended up leaving in July. So it all happened.
The day after my 21st, I remember.
Yeah, I remember as well.
That did happen very quickly. That 21st.
I'm surprised you both remember anything.
I remember everything up to and including speeches. Crystal clear.
Fair enough.
Anything that happened there after, blame the people that made me drink out of the boot.
I'll take no blame.
Okay, before we go on to the England thing, which we very nicely got to a point there, let's go back to what Graham asked earlier about school and like, how was your school? Because I know you and school didn't agree. Like, we're quite opposite.
Yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to get to, because like I know where Dane stood on it, and Dane knows where I stood on it. I kind of enjoyed a lot of the aspects of it academically and just the sense of being with your mates all the time. Dane was kind of just there for the sake of being there.
I was involved in everything.
Yeah,
but like I loved it. Like, I did everything I possibly could, from plays to sports to academics.
Yeah, I get that. What I'm saying is you didn't care much.
I didn't care too much.
Like, you
tried. I didn't care. No,
you tried, but you didn't really.
I tried because I didn't have a choice. But like, it wasn't like a be all and end all.
Yeah. Whereas, like, I know on my side of things, like, academics was where I knew I could thrive a bit.
Your main point.
And I enjoyed it a lot. So getting to Kieran, like where did you kind of fall on that side of things? Where you obviously
The
get a lot of
beach.
guys. Yeah, we'll get there, but you obviously get a lot of guys who their main priority is like if they're not top of the grade, they like get disowned, and then you get guys who really couldn't care less what they do as long as they get to just check their mates all the time.
I mean, I think I was kind of in the middle of those two extremes because, to be honest, like academics was never really the most important thing. Like I was kind of just more enjoying, going out riding, making friends, like doing things on the weekend, like just chilling. Seeing your mates every day as well at school is something that I'll always miss because there's just nothing even compares. It was insane. Anyway, I knew academics was important, but at the same time, I didn't know what I wanted to do and where I was going. So I didn't have an end goal to focus on. For example, if I don't know about you, Graham, but if you knew that you wanted to be an accountant and you had to get certain results to make that happen, and that's going to be your main priority. Like you're going to focus.
Yeah, literally, that was kind of my. That's literally exactly it. It was,
from the time he got into school, he knew he wanted to be an accountant, and he, like, from the day we got into high school, he worked towards it, and so he hasn't stopped. He's still going.
Yeah, having that grade which was quite strong did help as well. I think that's something else that I don't know how strong academically your grade was, but that was something I noticed. There's a lot of guys in our grade were kind of pushed because we had a really strong top 5.
Yeah.
Top 6.
I mean, I just remember, what do you mean top 5, top 6, top 30, bro? Like, I remember.
No, but like
in our grade 11 year, the year above us, like the top 10 went down into the 70 aggregates. Our top 20 were all 80 aggregates. Our grade was ridiculous, bro. Our grade was
we had a tough grade.
Anyway, back
to Kieran. Kieran, that's what I was getting. Like, I don't know what your grade academically was like, because that's what I was saying is it will push you. If your grade is weak, like if your top 5 guys are the only guys pushing 80s, the rest of the grade isn't going to care that much. Do you know what I mean?
And like the way that I looked at school is I didn't really care about what everyone else was doing. I had my things that I wanted to do, and as long as I was passing maths, Afrikaans, and physics and doing well for everything else, like I was hundies. That was good for me, And it worked out in the long run. I mean,
and when you say you enjoyed school overall,
I enjoyed aspects of it, and then I hated aspects of other things like.
Because I know you hated Corvallis.
Yeah, I did not enjoy Corvallis at all.
I mean, that's understandable.
Completely understandable.
You're just rubbing shoulders with people that you're just not the same as, really. Like,
exactly, that's what it was the whole time. I mean, college gave you that opportunity to become friends with people who are the same as you and who have a similar mindset to you. And that's the aspect of college that I like the most.
Yeah, I think that's one thing college does do really well, is because the grades are so big. There really is a place for everyone, from like the rugby O's to the academic O's to the library monitors to the gamers. Like everyone's got their little pocket of the
and everyone just kept to themselves.
Yeah. For the most part. I mean, I think it's easy for us to say that because we were like that in between group that didn't really cause friction with anyone else. But I feel like some people would have had a rough ride at college, like especially if you think about some of the people that are in our grades, like the groups, and some of them were quite assholes. I don't know if they've grown up now, but
you'd like to believe that.
It's just that typical high school mentality. Yeah, we'd like to, but that typical high school mentality, like, oh, you do this, and I think it's weird, so I'm going to tune you about it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's subtle. Did you have any of that? Like, I know your group was not your great favorite group.
Well, yeah, like my school friends that I've said now and I've said before, like I knew even at school that after school it was kind of be done. Unfortunately, I'd never had a friend group like yours that stick around even 5 years later. My goodness, you're old.
I mean, you spent most of this time here chilling with me and my friends. Like,
literally, bro. Like, yeah. What was the question?
Did you have any of those like bullies or
Oh,
not even
yeah.
necessarily to the point of bullying, but just like oaks taking the piss and being dickheads,
Yeah, dude,
basically?
like,
Yeah.
lots of those would take the piss, like saying cycling is not a real sport. Meanwhile, if they even had to try and do what we did, they would probably die. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those things like that's high school. Everyone gets it. If you're not first team rugby or a prefect, then everyone looks at you like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah,
And
that's true.
that's why I
Yeah.
really hate how it works. But at the same time, there's parts of it that did work for me. So I'm very neutral in school or high school. Junior school, different
Yeah.
story. Let's not get into that now.
Yeah.
There's certain
We've got
aspects
another
of
episode to do that.
especially at college, there's certain, like, if you get involved in certain things, it kind of like shelters you from like that sort of abuse, if you know what I mean. Like you say, if you do something that
yeah.
if you're doing something like it's kind of weird or whatever, but you've got like like you're friends with certain people, then like, or you have mutual friends, and you're not going to really get as much stick as someone who isn't friends with said group of people. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and like the problem that our group had is that we were doing things that everyone else wished they could. Like we would go into the forest in the bucky and go 4x4, and we would go riding, and we would do whatever we wanted to do in our friend group. And I think people kind of looked at that like maybe it was a bit unfair. Like, I mean, we were very fortunate that we could do that, and we had a solid friend group to do that. So that's probably an aspect of it. Like it very much is at school level. Like at the end of the day, the people who are like that, it is jealousy.
Yeah, it is 100%.
Ultimately,
yeah.
That's probably why no one ever took a piss out of me, because I didn't do anything jealousy worthy.
Yeah, me too, dude. But that's what I say. I think I'm speaking from experience with the whole sheltering from, like, we obviously knew people in quite a few friend groups. Like,
I think, bro, like our friend group, we
spread
were very
ourselves
lucky.
quite
I don't know.
thick.
Like our group we literally made our group by grabbing people from different groups in the quad, and we're like, we are friends now. Like that was literally how we became, like, not even figuratively, like we physically walked and grabbed people by the collar and we're like, you are now a part of our friend group, and we're still friends to this day in grade 10. So like we literally had a bit of everyone.
You can see how diverse the school is. Like if you look at it, you have Graham, who's like an academic, and you have Dane, who did the cultural stuff as well as squash and a bit of sports, and then you have Nikki, the prefect and the South African tennis person,
and
then you have like Mark Forrest, first team hockey, like all these different people who you surrounded yourself with in all different aspects. Like it definitely would have helped.
And then we had like Jono and Clinton and like Dylan. Our group was so literally from different groups. I mean, the only thing we didn't have was a border. I don't think we had a border in our group.
We had Matt.
I mean,
we had
Matt Walsh and Brandon used to like come into it.
I mean, so Dylan was in and out of the BE all the time. So
yeah, that's true. Dylan was BE in the BE in Matric. So like we were lucky, I think, that we got away with the fact that we had every person in our group was friends with another group in the grade.
Yeah.
So there was no one that could really take the piss out of us because they had a friend involved with us. So
literally,
I think for us, we nailed the whole high school thing. Like I don't think we could have done it better.
Yeah, we did. We completed high school. We finished high school.
Yeah, 100%. I'd say I finished high school.
Yeah.
Anyway, enough about school. Like, okay, so the day after my 21st, you hopped on a plane to go to the country you were born in with absolutely zero plan. You're going to live with our great aunt and uncle, who are very old compared to us, like not much in common, just to go and figure it out. Like, yeah.
I think the first question is why?
How did that start?
Bro, like I look back now and it just happened so quickly I can't actually even remember. But basically, I was working at the bike shop and it was boring. Like it was fun. I was working with my best mates every single day, the whole day, having a good time, riding bikes in the afternoon, just chilling, bro. Like it was just chilling. But
sounds like a dream.
Yeah, but I was frustrated because I wanted to be doing more and I wanted to be building towards the future. You know, like I wanted an end start, and at that point, I was just idling.
You were kind of just making ends meet. Like your salary was just paying for your repairs on your bike, basically.
Dude, literally, my salary every month would just pay off my account and I get them back. Like, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah. Okay. So
I
April,
guess
you said the
that
discussion
answers the
started.
why. Yeah.
Was that
Yeah,
when
so
you
April,
had the operation?
yeah, so I had the operation in April, beginning of April, and that's kind of when the discussion started, with mom and dad saying like, look, have you thought about it? And I always thought like, oh, it would be way too expensive. It's unrealistic. It could never happen until we started actually having a look at it and realizing that if Eric and Mary were happy to have me, which fortunately and thankfully they were, it would actually be quite manageable. And I think it gave me exactly what I needed. It was just being thrown in the deep end, getting on a plane with absolutely no plan. Like I had a certain amount of money, I had a certain amount of time to make it happen. And I think that's
And if you didn't, you were coming back to figure it out. Yeah.
exactly. And I think that was the exact kick to sort of get me in the right direction. Yeah, I mean, I reckon it was a good decision. And you have a similar thing, like if you go off to Pretoria and you're fending for yourself, like it gives you time to sort of mature and figure out what you're doing. It was the same thing,
Yeah.
just on a slightly more
Just
extreme.
on a much grander scale. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I went to Pretoria to study. Like I didn't go there without a plan. Like you
Yeah.
literally went to another country on the other side of the world with no plan. How did it go from sitting around every day with no plan to where you are now? Like,
Oh, bro, I don't know. Like I'm very lucky because everything kind of fell into place, like the stars aligned, and it just happened. Like yes, it's a lot of hard work, but I was like looking for jobs all over the place, going to interviews all over the place, and sort of arb things like recruitment and door-to-door sales for like working on commission only, and I hadn't really found anything that appealed to me or that I thought was good. And then I saw an advert for just an intern salesperson at the company I'm working for now. And it's Airband. It's an internet service provider, one of Dad's customers as well. So I knew kind of what they did. And I was like, you know what? Why not? Let's just apply for that. And even if I do it for a year, it's a bit of experience. It's something on the CV.
yeah.
What could I lose? Went for the interview, got offered the job, and yeah, it was just lucky, right place, right time that I managed to get in when I did, because it really has progressed quite nicely.
Yeah, so on that, progressing quite nicely. Like you obviously got the job as a sales intern. That
Yeah,
was the first role you had, and that was when? When did you sign that first contract?
beginning of September in 2019.
Sure. Okay. So then from there, like now talk us through. So you're a sales intern, first day on the job.
Oh my goodness, bro! It was you can never prepare yourself for starting from school, like having a little bit of a break, and then
Because
going.
you're 18 at this point. You haven't even turned 19 yet.
Yeah.
I just turned 18, or yeah, the year before.
No, you're about September. Yeah, you're about to turn 19. You're a month away.
Yeah. Nothing can like prepare you for the shock. Like I go in there and it's this big office and it's all these adults all, dressed up, and I go there and I'm having these inductions talking about GDPR and like all these things that I didn't know about. And it's just so overwhelming. Like I'll never forget the first week I was a nervous wreck. Like I didn't know what I was doing. It's crazy. It's so crazy. But yeah, I mean, just had to carry on, just take it step by step. And
So what did it entail? So that you were going to do like an apprenticeship? You're doing like courses. You're supposed to do like a certain number of courses over the amount of time.
so it took me on as an apprentice, and I was supposed to start with like a 1 year apprenticeship in the new year, which had like a syllabus, and I was supposed to learn some things. But it didn't really ever get to that point because by January, or not even by December, they were kind of like, well, nothing's progressed on the apprenticeship, and I was doing quite well. I was, outselling the people who had full-time jobs and were adults. So they kind of said, well, do you want a full-time job as just a sales advisor? And I was like, well, of course, like, yes. And yeah, I mean, I don't know. It was good timing as well, though, because the whole company's just scaled up over the last 2 years. And I think I just got in at the perfect time because in the sales department now, when I started, there was 5 of us. 2 of them have since left. And now we've employed another 12, 13 people since that time.
Okay.
So it really has grown, exponentially, and it will be growing. I mean, we're employing more people for our teams now.
That's crazy. So it took you 3 months from being employed as an intern with start to do an apprenticeship in the new year to it's now December, and they were like, okay, we're not going to waste your time doing this thing. Let's just give you a job and you just get going because you clearly know what you're doing, even if you don't know what you're doing, like you're getting the results.
Exactly. I was just grafting as hard as I could, and yeah, I mean, it paid off. And 1st of December, I signed a new contract.
Looking at how quickly it all fell into place, like Dane said, like a 3-month process, do you think you would have liked to have left here like straight after school? Or do you think like having done the 6 months here kind of shaped you to be able to go over?
I think it shaped me because like I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And I think that without 6 months after school in South Africa, I wouldn't have got to that point where it was, okay, I need to jump in the deep end or I'm screwed. I wouldn't have got to that point. Like if I'd gone to England straight after school, maybe the urgency wouldn't have been there. It would have been, oh, well, I'm chilling at the moment. I'm not really doing anything. What's the rush? Whereas when I got there, it was, okay, it's a rush. It was a mad rush. Like I need to get a job. I need to pay my own bills and I need to start fending for myself because I didn't want to be a burden on anyone else. I had to, obviously, my parents had to give me money to start off with. And I didn't want to be spending anyone else's money and being a burden on anyone else. So it was just that urgency, that mad rush to get off my feet, get going.
I mean, yeah, you did pretty well, I'd say. Okay, but the story doesn't really end there. So you signed that first. So this was the 1st of December 2019. You signed your second contract with a new role as just the sales advisor, you said?
Yeah, sales advisor.
Then you did that for how long? How long?
Let me just count.
It was almost a year, or was it more than a year?
I did it until about August this year, or last year, sorry, August 2020.
And then what happened?
And then I got a second promotion and started running my own team.
So that's less than a year. So that was August. So in less than a year, you went from being signed as an intern to managing your own sales team at 19. That's wild.
Fair enough. Well done.
Talk about overachieving.
Yeah, jeez.
I'll maintain like it was right place, right time. The fact that I was the first one there, apart from my manager and the original team leader, I was the first one there. I learned everything as quickly as possible. When new people came, I was training them and kind of watching over their day to day, despite that not even being my job. So,
but I mean, you see, as an 18-year-old or 19-year-old to take on that responsibility to like learn everything that quickly and coach the new people to get them up to scratch when it's not even your job. I mean, right place, right time, but there were other people there at the right place, right time that didn't get to the same point as you. Like you've got to take the right place, right time and run with it,
Like, I mean, right place, right time just gets your foot in the door. It's how you respond to it.
I mean, when I got there and they were kind of like highlighting their plans for the next 5 years, I knew that, okay, if I play my cards right, it could be a very good opportunity. And that's when I decided, okay, well, I'm in the right place. Now I just need to work my ass off and make sure that I make the most of the opportunity. And so far, so good. And there's still more to come. Like we have hundreds of millions of pounds worth of investments into the company from private investment firms. We also have obviously government backing, building networks all over the place. I mean, there's so much investment into the company at the moment. That's the next 5 years is probably going to triple, quadruple in size again. So
you said it was
so speaking of the next 5 years.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to ask, like, basically what you say.
Lead a sales team.
Say you lead
Yeah.
a sale, like what exactly are you selling into who?
Okay, so what we do as a company, we build all the infrastructure. So we have two networks. We have our wireless networks, which uses fixed line of sight wireless technology to provide an internet connection. And then we also do fiber to the premise, which is what we're focusing on now. Obviously, the government have put up £5 billion to bring fiber to the premise to everyone by 2025. That's the goal, and we're quite crucially involved in that. So we build the infrastructure, and then what my team's responsibility is and what our commercial department does is we then obviously sell to the customers and get customers on the network. So as a company, I mean, the business model is solid because not only are we getting paid to build infrastructure that we own, we then
Also
get to sell.
Okay.
Yeah, we get to sell contracts on the network and get monthly revenue from the customer themselves. So that's what I'm involved in. So what my team is, I mean, we have sort of two branches of my team. I have guys who, when it's not COVID, go out and knock doors in areas and get sales that way. So face to face, very direct in the community, which is old fashioned, but it's worked very well for us. Not a lot of the companies do it anymore because it's quite costly.
I know it's not exactly the same thing, but I've recently been looking for a place to move to, and face is honestly so much better than anything you could ever do over the phone or over WhatsApp or anything. Like,
because I mean,
it
the way that I
changes
look at
perspective so much.
Even this isn't as good
Yeah.
as face to face. Like, there's just something about actually look into someone's eyes and see what they're actually saying.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, so when we come up with like how our strategy and how we're going to do things, like if you put yourself in a customer's shoes, if you have someone cold calling you once a week, you just get pissed off and put the phone down. I don't even answer it if it's a number I don't recognize. If you have someone in your door and they've got an ID badge on and they're in the company's uniform and they say, "How are you doing, Mr. Smith? My name's Kieran. I'm from Airband. We've just built a fiber network and we're just coming around to let you know that it's available." It's so much more personal and like, not, you may think it's intrusive.
It's not just like a number phoning you randomly. Like,
I mean,
exactly. It's like a connection. It's two people speaking to each other.
To build, I mean, we got fiber installed like I think last year at my place here in Maritzburg, and the only thing we heard of it was the guys came to ask, like they needed to get permission to dig up part of our driveway to run the. That was the only way we heard that we were getting fiber in the area, was because the guys installing the actual cables. Like the guys installing the actual cables had to get permission to like dig up part of our driveway and then fix it for us. But like that's so I get completely where you're coming from. Like having people go door to door saying, "Yo, we've just installed this stuff. Like,
do you want in?"
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing at the moment. It's a lot of hard work, especially before COVID really struck, and it's out 6 days a week out in the field, knocking on doors, making sure everyone's doing what they're doing. Like it is hard work. And the novelty of staying in hotels definitely wears off. I can tell you that much. But it's also, quite rewarding when you've just hit a record number of sales and everyone in the company is just talking about the sales department, and that department's 15 people and you're involved in it. It's quite a cool feeling.
And when the engineers can't keep up with the number of sales that you're making as well.
Well, I mean, that's the position we find ourselves in now. So the pressure's been completely taken off sales. Last year we did over 5,000 sales, whereas the year before, we sort of started the sales team mid-year, they were struggling to do 100 sales a month. So we've ramped it up that much, and they've taken the pressure off because we blew their wildest dreams of what we could do in a year, and they don't actually have the resource to keep up with us. So that's what they're doing at the moment. They employed another 30 engineers just this month.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned the next 5 years and how the company is going to grow. What are your plans? Are you planning on staying there for the next 5 years, or
so I'm still quite unsure, like as to my very long-term plans and what they are, because despite how much I enjoy what I'm doing now, I don't know if it's what I want to be doing for the rest of my life. I definitely have an interest in networking and cybersecurity in that section, and it is something that I'm studying part time to sort of learn more about. But next 5 years, potentially don't want to be working for someone else. Definitely want to get my own thing going, and yeah.
I think that was going to be my next question, because it's very difficult to say where you're going to go in 5 years if you're at a company. I think the best way to look at it is how far can you go within that company. Like, have
Yeah.
you kind of reached your peak, or is there still more for movement for you? Like, can you still get promoted further, or are you kind of sitting in a position now where for the next 5 years you're going to be doing the same thing?
Yeah, so definitely for the next 2 years, I've hit the ceiling at this company.
Okay.
But like I said, there's a lot of opportunity with all the expansion to really just benefit from the hard work that we've put in over the last year and a half. I've got a lot of commission outstanding that's waiting to be installed, and that's really what I want to focus on for 2 years. Long-term goal, I mean, like I said, I'm studying part-time, and hopefully I'll be able to use what I've been learning in the future. I don't really know. Like I'm as unsure of the long-term plan as I was a year and a half ago when I started. At least I've got myself a little footing now that if I do want to branch out, there's securities there that I have set myself up.
Well, at least you can feel secure that a year and a half ago you didn't know what you were doing, and it worked out. So
Yeah, I mean, it can only get better from here.
yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah. So you mentioned before the little Nunu that's going around killing people came around, and that you were staying in hotels. So you traveled a lot of okay, let me just go back. Let me start this question again. So you land in the UK, you go to St. Albans, you're there. Like, I remember when you first got there, your biggest prospect was working in a fish and chip shop. That was like the plan. And then within a few months, you're now working at this company. Worcester is how far from St. Albans?
It's about a 2-hour drive up here to Ballito.
So you basically moved city, but moved in by yourself. Well, no, not by yourself. You moved into student accommodation to start with 3 other people.
4 other people in a little house.
4 other people. Yeah. And then shortly after that, then you moved into this place you're in now, hey? Or did you go? Was there somewhere in between?
It was somewhere in between. So I've tried to keep like my expenses very low, just trying to save and give a safety blanket. So I stayed in student accommodation when I first moved to Worcester for 6 months, and that was super cheap. Like, it was a tiny bedroom, £300 a month, which is expensive in South Africa, but in comparison there, it's the cheapest you get.
Yeah.
And I lived there for a solid 6 months, and I think that was the best thing I could have done, because I made friends who lived with me, who I'm still friends with now, even though that was over a year ago, which was because I moved to a city where I literally did not know a single person. So that was a nice sort of way to start. I moved just before the pandemic started. I moved into like a slightly nicer student accommodation. So it was still a shared kitchen, shared lounge, but I had my own bedroom and own bathroom, obviously. So I lived there for a further 6 months. And only after that, that's
was that just before the pandemic?
Yeah, I moved in like literally a month, 2 months. I moved in about end of January, so 2 months before the pandemic actually started.
And then during the pandemic, you then moved into this 2-bedroom place and then Etienne. Is it Etienne? Came and moved in with you.
Yeah, so I mean, I moved in by myself. I had no idea that Etienne was actually going to move in with me.
Yeah.
And thank goodness he did. And then he moved in with me, and it's been nice. I mean, we've just split everything half and lived in a nice big 2-bedroom house. And yeah, it's been fantastic.
Okay, so then going back to this little pandemic that's going on. So you mentioned how you were going all over the country, staying in hotels, door-to-door sales and everything.
Yeah.
That obviously would have stopped quite abruptly when the lockdown came in. How did that affect? So how did that affect you in general? Like, what was it like in the UK?
Yeah, so I mean, it was a lifestyle change overnight, and it was quite upsetting because I just started making friends in the city I was living with, and the prospects of summer were great. Like, it was going to be awesome. Then all of a sudden, March came, and it was 3 months of staying inside a bedroom, which obviously had quite a knock on my mental health. Because when you're living in a bedroom and you're working in the same bedroom and you have nowhere to go and you're not supposed to be seeing your friends, I did it anyway because I'm sorry, but how can they expect someone living on their own in a bedroom to not
Especially
have
within the first year, yeah. Like you've just come to a
Yeah.
country,
Yeah, so lockdown was tough, but at the same time, I think it was almost good because I wouldn't have made such good friends with the friends I am with now, Lawrence, Etienne, Nick, and Ashton, if it wasn't for lockdown. Because we literally spent every single weekend together, the whole weekend for 3 months of the year, just every single weekend.
Yeah, because there wasn't anything else to do. Like keep your circle small, Like it's not worth going out and meeting new people. You've got to kind of keep your circle to your circle.
We weren't allowed to. I mean, I'll never forget how sketchy it was. Fortunately, at that time, I was living like half a kilometer away from Lawrence's house, so it wasn't too far. But we weren't allowed to go anywhere. The only place you were allowed to go was to a grocery shop. Everything else was closed and it was banned. You weren't allowed to mix with anyone else. So I'll never forget like riding my skateboard down the hill at like 3 a.m, absolutely cracked off my tits, coming back from a bri at Lawrence's house, coming home and just there's nothing, bro. There's not a single car on the road. There's not a single person. It's just
It was
quiet.
crazy. It really was crazy. I just remember
really
that
changed.
beginning of lockdown with all the photos of
Yeah.
like Cape Town's roads just being empty and Joburg's roads being
Yeah.
empty, and it was haunting actually. Wow. Like those are things you never see. Even in the dead of night, there's cars there, the traffic is pumping.
Yeah.
It's quite scary how quick, and it was the thing that I think got a lot of people was this how sudden it was.
It was overnight.
Like
Very
it was
sudden.
literally because everyone just like, I mean,
I
even
was-
though with us it was like there was a lead up to it. It's like we're going into a lockdown in X amount of days. I can't remember what it was, but everyone just lived their lives until that day, and the next day it was like quiet. Everyone was just inside.
I
Yeah.
mean, when I look back at the start
If
of it now,
anything, it got busier. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, we were told, for us at least, we were told, okay, cool, we're going into a 3-week lockdown, and after that, it should be back to normal and crisis averted. So the
Yeah,
weekend
literally.
lockdown started, we were literally in Cardiff for Lawrence's birthday. We traveled to Cardiff. We were living our life like normal, going to clubs, hundreds and thousands of people all over the place, no problem. And then the next weekend, we were illegally
Nice.
meeting up at Lawrence's house having a grab.
I mean,
It
I
was just-
remember like when this whole thing, it was like March. It was like the middle of March.
yeah,
I was busy studying for a test, and
yes,
that Sunday that Cyril spoke to us the first time, I was writing a test on that Monday, and Cyril
Yeah.
spoke, and he was like, "Yo, this bug is kind of
weeks.
spreading. We've got a few cases in the country." No, he hadn't even really announced the lockdown yet, had he? I think he just
Yeah.
sort of said, "Guys, just sort
Oh,
of like
that was the day
close down big meetings." Was it the 15th of March?
I think so
When
because
we were still in
because
Pretoria.
I was back home already.
No, bro, he only no,
because my lectures had stopped. I was
No,
home
bro.
because my
I'm talking
No,
about
but I
before
wasn't.
that. Bro, lectures were still
When the-
going though.
no, they weren't. Because
He spoke again. He spoke again. So
The lectures got halted on a Thursday before he spoke. The varsity took a decision to hold lectures before Cyril spoke.
Did they hold
so the
lectures
lectures had
then?
stopped. Yeah, because
but then we were still going to write a test on the Monday.
Yeah, but the SRC got involved and got lectures to stop.
Oh yeah, because they'd also stopped fingerprints by then. Hey.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so talk had got around like community-wise, and like people had been talking,
Yes.
and the SRC had said, "Yo, like we have to use our fingerprints on this thing to get onto campus." That's like really bad considering this virus spreads through human contact. Like, can we stop that? But then it was just like tap your card and you could go through for like a week, and then Cyril spoke on the Sunday saying, yo, like big public things need to slow down. We're going to go into a lockdown on this date, yada, yada, yada. And at this point, on Sunday night, the night before our first test of the year, we still don't actually know if we're writing the test because he said university, like in the speech, he's like, we're still in contact with the Department of Higher Education, and the decision on whether universities will carry on will come later. So now I'm like, okay, chances are it's going to be cancelled, but I can't bank on it. My head's all over the place trying to study for this test. Then I wake up the next morning to a notification, your test has not been cancelled. You're still writing a test. A few hours later, the university's cancelled all tests. It was like all over the place. Then within a few days, packed up, went home for a 3-week holiday, as we all thought it was going to be at the time. And 3 months later, I was still at home with a few shorts and t-shirts. I didn't even pack jerseys. I had to go through winter with like 2 jerseys. I just walked around with a blanket the whole time. Like it came so very out of nowhere, actually. I think across the world, no one really.
For me, what happened? It was a case of I was in my last lecture before our test series started. So
you were going to have a holiday then anyway, weren't you? Yeah.
I was going to have a study leave. I was going to have study leave for a week.
Study leave.
Study
leave.
leave.
Study leave.
Study leave. Study leave for like 2 weeks, and I started writing because I know that I wasn't supposed to be home for my mom's birthday, which is at the end of March, and I was because of the lockdown, but I wasn't supposed to be.
Oh yeah.
I was sitting in a lecture. Actually left the lecture early because that's when the message came out on one of the days to say lectures are up. So I left a lecture and that was it. And then you came home for thinking like 2-3 weeks, because I came home for 2 weeks because I was supposed to write tests. So I was like, okay, I'll come home for 2 weeks, come back and then have a week and a bit to study, and then go and write my tests, and that'd be that. And I didn't go back to Pretoria until September. So, yeah.
I mean, I went back in like June or July sometime. I had to, because interprovincial travel was banned, so I had to like get a permit, and it was just all over the place. Hey, what a time! Because the UK, your lockdown wasn't as hardcore as ours. It was rough, like the same restrictions in terms of things being closed and not being allowed to see people. But you could travel, you could drive to different places if you needed to.
Yeah, so we could, and you guys weren't even allowed to exercise for the initial.
No, yeah, we weren't even allowed.
We weren't allowed for the hard lockdown.
Yeah, we were encouraged, because the thing is, and what was quite harsh, you guys are going into winter, so it was more of an inside time for you guys anyway. Our peak lockdown was as summer started, so there was a big sort of emphasis on the fact that, look, guys, we know it's summer, go out and do your exercise, but keep your distance. So that was by far the saving grace, because I mean, at lunchtime, working from home, I would meet up with my friend Jack, and we would go for a walk along the river or something, and I would go riding in the afternoon, and just, that obviously helped. At least after your workday finished at 5, you had another 4 hours of sunlight where you could go and get outside and get a change of scenery. So
you see, that's the thing in the UK as well. So you get sunlight till way past bedtime.
Yeah. But I mean, it was just a harsh time for everyone, I think, worldwide.
And I mean, talking about it, I mean, it's not even as if it's done, because you came out. So we were supposed. Oh, that's another thing. We were supposed to come as a family to the UK for the first time since we came back in June, July, somewhere around there. And obviously that got a little bit cancelled due to the bug. And then that made you decide to come back here. And obviously we surprised Mom. Somehow we managed to keep it from Mom the whole time. And then you came here, and because of the public holiday, you've had to postpone your flight to go back. And now there's this new strain that seems to be between England and South Africa, the 2 places in the world. Like, all the countries in the world, it's the 2 countries that you need to travel between. So like there was all this conversation every time Boris or Cyril was speaking. It was like, oh no, they're going to cancel everything. I'm not going to be able to get back. But I mean, at this stage, you're still going back next week Thursday. Hey,
I need to, like,
yeah.
as it stands, everything should be on.
I was just about to ask, like, how much of your work can actually be done remotely?
Well, at the moment, England's gone back into a full lockdown as if it was March again. And I saw this meme and I showed my dad and Dane. It's like Tokyo's in 2021, this other place is in 2020 because of the time difference, and England's in March.
But I mean, England's numbers have gone through the roof.
We broke 60,000 cases for the first time yesterday in a day.
60,000 in a day. Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Like, I remember we were looking at the graph of England next to South Africa, and Colby came in and was like, oh, South Africa's so much worse. And I was like, Colby, look at the scale. Ours goes up to 20,000. Their first line is 20,000. Like, it's unreal.
It is unreal. But they always said that the second wave was going to be worse than the first. And
and they didn't even know that there was going to be another little variant.
But it's the English winter now, isn't it?
Mm.
So that obviously like has some because your immune system is a bit weaker when it's colder.
Exactly, and the spreads
like regular flu season.
I think that's
how tenfold.
Like, as much as we've hit 1 million cases, like, our death rate's very low in South Africa. How did we get on to talking about all of this? Anyway, like, I think that our climate and the fact that our winter was during our hard lockdown, so we skipped the normal flu season because no one was seeing each other. Like, like our country basically just skipped their 6th season. So our first wave was nothing, really.
And I mean, our one was also, it was controlled because we went into a full lockdown in summer. And the virus, it spreads slower in summer because of the heat. And now that we're in winter and we're having our second wave and we didn't have a strict lockdown, we had this useless tier system. Like, I love Boris, but the tier system was useless. Just spread like wildfire.
Like, economically, Boris might be a good prime minister, but in terms of this pandemic, he's been an absolute joke.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I think
in terms of saving lives.
Because he saved the economy and has still done a better job than the US in terms of saving lives.
Yeah. But you compare him like to Donald Trump.
I think,
do you really want to compare yourself to America? Like you say, the worst colony.
Yeah, the worst colony.
Third world country with a Gucci belt.
Oh my word.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions that we had written down?
I'm looking now. That's all questions I had.
Yeah, I mean, we got into quite the chat about lockdown, which wasn't planned.
Yeah.
But that should be interesting. Is there anything else you want to add, Kieran?
Yeah, I have some questions for you guys, the podcast hosts. Are you ready for this?
Okay. Yeah, geez.
Pull the reverse card on us.
Core values, boys. Consistency. How often am I going to be watching your podcast?
We spoke about this other day. We're going to do every week for as long as we can. No, every week, remember? Because we've got so many guests lined up and whatever. So we're going to do every week. And in a couple of months, if when Graham started working, if he can't keep up with it or whatever, we might like say that we'll go to every 2 weeks, but it won't be less regular than every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But for now, every week. So this should be coming out on Friday. Oh wait, the first one came out on Saturday, so let's stick to Saturday then.
Well, should we just make it a Friday anyway? Because it was supposed to be Friday.
Yeah, but it came out on Saturday, so let's just stick to Saturday now. I mean,
so we're gonna make them Saturdays now.
Yeah, let's make it Saturdays.
About this, let's go to the next question. One day you guys gonna have like a set, or are you just gonna do the online thing for the foreseeable future?
Until this virus pisses off, I think it's gonna have to be online. But yes, we will eventually have a set in one of our places.
It also depends on where Dane is next year. Because if Dane's in Maritzburg, or this year, if Dane's in Maritzburg, then either one of us could just hop onto the highway and come see each other for a weekend.
Yeah.
But if Dane's in Victoria, then it's not feasible.
But at the end of the day, we can also record multiple episodes in the day. There's absolutely nothing else stopping us.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Is if I hop through on a Saturday to Maritzburg, we can record.
Like a whole month's worth of podcasts in a weekend.
Literally.
Well, that's only 2 podcasts.
4 hours, you know. Like the time-consuming part's me sitting, going through it, editing it, cutting out the crap, and
Yeah.
Right, cool. That's
yeah.
bad for you guys.
Was it- Yeah, so one day we'll have a set. It won't be like a studio set, but we'll have a place that looks nice that we can sit and talk. But for now, you know, we're going
It is
to
what
do
it
it like this.
It is what it is. Soundtrack of 2020. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
What it is.
Okay, so are we done? Can I do like outro
Yeah,
stuff?
I reckon we outro this shit.
Okay.
Yeah, let's try.
Thank you for tuning in. Those of you who are still here, please comment. I broke my fucking leg. Thanks for tuning in.
Us.
Don't forget to
I'm
like
sure
and subscribe. Because a lot of you watched our first episode, but not many of you subscribed. So please do subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Let us know in the comments who you'd like to see us talk to. If there's anyone, let us know
Follow
what you
us
think
all on
about how it's
Instagram.
going so far. Any ideas? Follow us on Instagram. The links and all of that will be in the description. I'm still working on how to get all these episodes onto Apple Music and Spotify, because the only way I can find it for free is only 2 hours a month, which is not going to be enough if we do every week. And yeah, subscribe to my YouTube channel. That link will be in the description. Yeah. Anything
Follow
else?
us all on Instagram.
Yeah.
That's it
Thank
from
you.
our
We
side.
did that the first time. Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Thanks.
Sure.
Cheers.
Alright.
Cheers.
Thanks, cheers, bye.